Discover the incredible woman who changed everything. A millionaire's life-transforming accident. The sun blazed down on the town like a spotlight, illuminating the faces of laughter, families huddled on picnic blankets, kids darting about with bright, homemade kites. But for Sarah Thompson, the sparkle of the day felt light years away. As she served steaming coffee at Betty's diner, the clattering of silverware seemed to echo her dreams of something more, a future she yearned for her two kids, always just out of reach. Sarah wiped her brow, her heart heavy with the weight of unseen struggles, terrified she might never escape the clutches of poverty that had defined her life. One glance toward the park reminded her of what she was missing. Wealthier families were mingling with ease, their laughter floating through the air like the ribbons trailing behind the kites. But just as normalcy settled in, the unexpected happened. Sarah's world tilted when Jane Mitchell, a reclusive millionaire with a suffocating past, stumbled through the vibrant chaos. The tent, a party central for the fundraiser, suddenly collapsed, sending supplies crashing to the ground. As panic erupted, Jane fell, shame washing over her as she felt the weight of guilt smother her mind. Something sparked deep inside Sarah as she rushed over. Ignoring the exhaustion from her long shift, she knelt by Jane, offering her hand. The world could talk all they wanted about privilege, but in that moment Sarah wanted to change the narrative. "Are you okay?" she asked, heart pounding, not just from the unexpected chaos, but from the shared burden she could see in Jane's eyes. Their dialogue traveled through the noise, a shared moment that shattered the walls between them. Jane's guarded nature started to crack, and a flicker of warmth sparked between them as Sarah ushered her away from the swirling chaos. The whispers around them felt deafening. What is a millionaire doing here? Does she really care? But there was something about Sarah's smile that spoke of resilience and compassion, and lightly Jane could feel her burdens beginning to lift. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In weeks that followed, as Jane recovered, Sarah found herself visiting to check on her new friend, and their connection deepened through shared cups of tea and whispered worries. They spoke of dreams and fears, ambition and guilt. Sarah's hope for her kids entwined with Jane's pain of isolation. Yet shadows loomed. Tension grew in their small town, each conversation thick with scrutiny. Who were they to befriend each other? The pivotal moment arrived when a revelation surfaced that shook both of them, digging deep into their pasts, questioning everything they believed about each other. The looming societal judgment felt heavy. Could these two women bridge the chasm between their worlds? In the moments of silence that followed, the surrounding whispers faded as they held each other's gaze. A lingering unanswered question hanging like a kite in the sky. Would their friendship withstand the storm? Or would their pasts pull them apart just as they began to heal? The days turned into weeks, with each visit bearing traces of laughter and vulnerability. Sarah looked forward to her time with Jane, sensing an unspoken promise growing beneath the surface, a bond that could transform both their lives. But small-town gossip whispered like a wretched wind. People were watching, judging, spreading rumors that burned like acid in Sarah's gut. What does she really want? They asked. Little did they know, both women were fighting their own battles. One afternoon, Sarah carried a freshly baked pie, a small token of friendship, into Jane's sprawling mansion. As she stepped inside, the lavish decor felt like a stark contrast to her cozy kitchen. Yet Jane was a warm light against the backdrop of cold marble. She welcomed Sarah with a smile, brushing aside worried glances. "I've been counting down the hours for this," Jane said, her voice bursting with genuine happiness. Settling at the dining table, the pie between them, they dug into the sweet, flaky crust. Their laughter filled the space, lightening the heavy air that often loomed over Jane's heart. "You know," Sarah began, wiping a crumb from her mouth, "people think wealth equals happiness, but I'm realizing that's not always true." Jane nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting the pain of shared understanding. "They think I have it all figured out. But what they don't see is how lonely it can be when nobody knows the real you." With those words, the invisible wall that surrounded her started to shatter in Sarah's presence. As the conversation swayed between empowering stories and painful truths, Jane pulled out an old photo faded and creased with a beaming smile of her younger self alongside her family. This was the last time we were all together, she explained, her voice trembling. Everything changed after the accident. A silence enveloped them. The echo of a life lost, dreams extinguished. Sarah leaned in closer, wanting to offer comfort. You're not alone anymore, Jane. You have me. And I'm here to support you. The sincerity in her words ignited something within Jane. A flicker of hope juxtaposed with the weight of her guilt. Yet, the moment was interrupted when Jane's phone buzzed violently on the table. It read, "Press release from Mitchell Enterprises. Outraged stockholders demand accountability." Jane went pale, her eyes darting between the screen and Sarah's concerned face. "I have to handle this," she said almost in a whisper. Just like that, their connection felt severed. The openness they'd built crumbled under the pressing weight of Jane's world, echoing the societal judgment they were both pushing against. Sarah felt the energy drain from the room like flickering lights before a storm. "I thought we were in this together," she said, hurt creeping into her voice. Jane looked torn between her reality and the friend who showed her a glimpse of something real. "I want to be Sarah. I really do. But responsibilities, they don't just disappear." As Sarah stood to leave, a new resolve hardened in her heart. She wouldn't let fear dictate their friendship. She would fight for it no matter the consequences. "I'll be right here when you're ready," she said firmly, although doubt hung on every word. Walking back through the lavish hallways, Sarah felt the pull of their two worlds weighing down on her, one made of burdens and the other of expectations. If they couldn't conquer the opinions swirling around them, what chance did they really have? The lingering question throbbed in her mind as she stepped outside. Would their friendship survive the judgment that swirled so dangerously close? And more importantly, could they help each other heal in a world that seemed intent on tearing them apart? With that uncertainty gnawing at her, Sarah took a deep breath, knowing the next chapter of their journey would demand bravery like they had never known before. Days passed since that charged afternoon, and as Sarah pondered the delicate stitches of friendship they were weaving, she found herself wandering back to Jane's mansion. A week had gone by, and the air felt thick with unspoken words and lingering desire for connection. Each visit bore the weight of two fragile hearts, desperate to pull free from the shadows of their pasts. As Sarah approached, she hesitated on the doorstep. The rumors in town had ramped up since their last meeting. Some people pointed fingers, others raised eyebrows, and a few outright gossiped. Glimpsing a flutter of curtains from an open window, she wondered what Jane was feeling. Was she battling guilt, fear, embarrassment? Or was she like Sarah, searching for solace and a way to breathe again? Gathering her resolve, Sarah knocked softly. Moments later, Jane appeared, her face a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Sarah, you came back." Her voice was laced with a hint of disbelief, as if Sarah were a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. "Of course. I brought some muffins this time," Sarah said with a smile that felt momentarily bright against the heaviness of their shared silence. "I thought we could have a little picnic on the lawn. Just the two of us." Jane's eyes shone with gratitude, but Sarah noticed the worry still etched on her brow. "That sounds lovely, but are you sure about this?" "What do you mean?" "About us." "This." She gestured around, the mansion looming like an unwelcome shadow. "It's complicated and I don't want to drag you down." "Too late for that," Sarah joked lightly, but her heart pounded. "When have I ever backed down from a challenge?" Jane chuckled softly, the tension easing just a fraction. "Fair point. Let us go." Sitting on the green grass, picnic blankets spread between them, they shared bites of muffins and sips of lemonade. The sunshine painted their laughter in warm golds, weaving a delicate spell of comfort. "Have you thought about what you want to do?" Sarah asked, her tone gentle. "With everything?" Jane hesitated, staring into her glass. "I'm just stuck. Responsibilities feel overwhelming. Every day I'm being pulled in a different direction. Yet I crave something real. Something more." The words hung heavy in the air. "Maybe real is what we're building right now," Sarah offered, her voice steady. "But it requires heart and intention." "It won't be easy." Jane nodded. "Feels risky exposing myself again." "Everything worth doing is risky." Silence settled between them, but it was a comfortable kind. They both felt the stirrings of hope, a rich warmth that lingered like the scent of blooming flowers. But as much as they cherished the moment, the reality of the world around them loomed ever closer. A sudden burst of laughter erupted from a family nearby, a stark reminder of the world they each struggled to navigate. Jane flinched, her eyes darting over. "I can't," she whispered. Understanding washed over Sarah. "The gossip? I don't want people thinking I'm, I don't know, weak. Or that you need saving." Sarah finished. "Jane, you're not weak. You're human." A flicker of connection sparked between them, deeper than the surface struggles. They were buried under judgment and pressures, yes, but this shared honesty could change everything. As they packed up their picnic, Jane seemed lighter. Yet Sarah sensed a storm brewing within her friend, a storm that could either tear them apart or bring them closer. The question loomed like dark clouds heavy with rain. Could they brave the downpour together? Or would the world's judgment become an insurmountable gulf? Both women knew the road ahead was rocky, yet they were ready to face whatever storm lay in wait together. Would Jane dare to let her walls crumble and step into the unknown? As they finished packing up the remnants of their picnic, the last rays of sunlight began to sink behind the trees. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soothing melody that wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was a pivotal moment, one where small decisions could lead to significant change. "Do you want to take a walk? Just around the garden?" Jane suggested, her voice a little stronger, like a new shade of confidence brushing against her insecurities. "Definitely," Sarah replied, feeling a spark of excitement. They rose and Sarah inhaled the sweet smell of blooming flowers, letting it anchor her in the moment. As they strolled along the winding path, Jane began to open up. "You know, I wish I could just walk away from all of this," she said, gesturing back toward the mansion. "Feels like it's suffocating me. Everybody expects so much, sometimes I wonder if anyone would even notice if I disappeared." "Jane, that's just not true. People care. Even when they don't show it." "I care," Sarah said emphatically, hoping to chase away the shadows curling around Jane's heart. Jane turned, her brow furrowed. "But do I have to be stuck in this role? What if I want something completely different? Then go for it. What is stopping you? I mean, think about it. You're not defined by that mansion or those people. You're more than just the expectations they've set for you." Sarah encouraged, her heart racing. With each step, they moved deeper into the conversation, and Jane's eyes began to brighten. "You've always seen me as more than that. But fear of failure, it paralyzes me." She took a deep breath, looking contemplative. "If I dare to pursue my dreams and fail, what happens then? The gossip would only get worse." Sarah's pulse quickened at Jane's revelation. "What if it didn't? What if, instead, you discovered a side of yourself that you've been hiding? No one would understand. They might even think I was throwing everything away. True change comes with a price. Look, I understand you're scared. But there's a world out there waiting for you. I believe your worth isn't measured by the mansion or the people in it. It's defined by you and what you choose to do next." Jane's expression softened, as if Sarah's words were a challenge she hadn't considered before. "I want to believe that." "I do." As they walked, a chorus of cicadas sang a comforting tune, drowning out the chaos of their thoughts. Moments passed and soon they found themselves at a clearing, the last sunlight spilling like honey across the grass. Sitting together on a bench, they finally met each other's gaze. A mutual understanding laced with a shared hope. "Maybe, just maybe, I could start something new," Jane said, her voice barely a whisper, filled with tentative excitement. "Then let us work on a plan." "You don't have to do this alone," Sarah replied, her heart swelling with encouragement. Suddenly, they were interrupted by a figure approaching from the path. It was Malcolm, Jane's father. His face set in a stern expression that made both women tense. The tension in the air became palpable as he approached, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Jane," he called, "we need to talk." The uncertainty in Jane's eyes hinted at the storm brewing around them. Would her father crush the fragile spark they had ignited? Could the shadows of her past swallow her new hope whole? As their fates hung in the balance, Sarah felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. She was ready for the battle ahead. But could Jane summon the courage to truly confront her reality? Jane's stomach twisted as Malcolm approached, each step echoing the weight of unspoken expectations. She half turned to Sarah, urgency in her whisper. "I can't do this now." But Sarah, sensing the storm brewing, squeezed Jane's hand reassuringly. "You can. You're stronger than you think." Malcolm stopped just a few feet away, his arms crossed tightly against his chest. The last rays of sunlight cast a long shadow behind him, emphasizing the divide between father and daughter. "This is important, Jane. We have business to discuss." Jane breathed in deeply, her heart pounding in her chest. "Can't it wait, Dad? I'm trying to figure things out," she said, willing her voice to remain steady. "No, it can't," Malcolm replied sharply, his tone cutting like glass. "You have a responsibility. The family needs you. I need you." Sarah observed the dynamic, her heart aching for Jane. She saw the flicker of defiance in Jane's eyes, yet it was drowned in waves of doubt. "Maybe you could just support me for once," Jane said, the softness of her voice doing little to mask the underlying plea. "I need to explore other options, find what makes me happy." "To be happy?" Malcolm chuckled bitterly. "What about the family legacy? Your happiness is secondary. This is our life, Jane. You were born into it." His words stung, wrapping tightly around Jane's neck like a noose. But this was her moment. This was her life. It felt monumental, standing there with Sarah by her side. "Dad, I don't want to live my life just to fulfill your expectations," Jane said finally, her voice gaining strength. "I deserve to choose my own path." Malcolm's expression shifted, but not in a way that made Jane feel better. His brows furrowed, and his eyes darkened with a mix of disbelief and fury. "Is this what you learned from your little picnic with friends? To throw everything away? Stop it," Sarah interjected, stepping forward, protective instincts flaring. "This isn't about throwing anything away. It's about Jane reclaiming her life. You need to understand that." Malcolm glanced at Sarah, momentarily taken aback. "Who are you to speak to me like that?" The air thickened with tension. Sarah met his gaze, her own resolve hardening. "I'm someone who sees Jane for who she really is, a woman capable of so much more than just following orders." Jane's heart raced, a swell of warmth overcoming her fear. She felt empowered by Sarah's words, a flicker of hope igniting within. "Dad," she said softly but firmly, "I'm not going to play a role that I didn't choose. I want a life where I can make my own decisions, even if I fail sometimes." Malcolm scanned his daughter's face, searching for signs of the girl who sought his approval. But she stood resolute, something new and unyielding flickering in her eyes. "Consider this carefully," he finally ground out, his voice taut. "You might not like what you find when you step outside these walls." With that he turned, his retreat echoing the chaos left in his wake. Silence enveloped the garden, heavy and uncertain. Jane looked at Sarah, her thoughts swirling. Was her father right? What if embracing her dreams only led to disappointment? But Sarah's presence grounded her. "You're not alone anymore, Jane. Whatever happens next, I'll be right here." Tears filled Jane's eyes, a cocktail of fear and hope alighting inside her. "Maybe I can really do this." The sun dipped lower, bathing the world in gold. The evening felt charged, ripe with possibility. As they sat in silence contemplating the strength of their bond, a tiny voice whispered within Jane. What if this newly found courage is the first step toward a life defined by her own choices? With a renewed sense of determination, she turned her gaze back toward the mansion, a future full of uncertainty shimmering beyond the walls. But just as her heart began to settle, a faint sound shattered the tranquility. An unmistakable crash echoed from inside. What was that? Sarah's eyes widened, fear replacing the moment's warmth. Jane's breath caught in her throat. Could this be the signal of an unexpected change? Would it be the very catalyst she needed for her journey ahead? Jane's heart raced as she exchanged a quick glance with Sarah. The crash echoed again, a jarring sound that made the air around them feel heavy. Without thinking, she took a step toward the mansion. "Wait," Sarah called out, grabbing her arm. "Be careful." Could be what? Jane snapped, the frustration boiling over. What if this is my chance to find out what's happening inside? I need to know. She could feel the unease dripping from Sarah's voice, but desire for answers outweighed her caution. They hesitated at the door, half steps into the shadow of the great house. Jane pushed it open, the hinges creaking in protest, and entered the dim corridor. Shadows loomed larger here, every corner an unknown. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling as it bounced off the walls, swallowed by a thick silence. She took cautious strides forward, the knot in her stomach tightening with each step. "In here," a voice shouted, muffled but urgent. It came from the small study off to the right. Heart pounding, Jane rushed into the room. And there, amidst the scattered papers and overturned chair, stood her brother, Ethan. He was breathing heavily, his face flushed with an excitement that made no sense in the context of chaos. What happened? Jane asked, looking around at the mess. What did you do? Ethan grinned, clearly riding on a wave of adrenaline. I was trying to reach that shelf, he said, pointing at a precarious stack of books that had toppled over. But I knocked over Dad's old trophy instead. You should see his face when he finds out. Jane couldn't help but laugh nervously, though the noise felt misplaced. This isn't the best time for games, Ethan. I just had a huge talk with Dad. Everything is different now. Ethan's smile faded. Different how? She took a deep breath, unsure of how to articulate the whirlwind of emotions within her. I told him I want my own life. I don't want to be just a part of the family business or live by his rules anymore. Ethan looked at her wide-eyed. You actually said that? Wow, Jane, I mean, you're brave. But what if he gets mad? You know how he is. Mad or maybe hurt, she said, her voice faltering. But I have to do this not just for me but for everyone stuck in this cycle. If I don't fight for what I want, who will? Just then, the door to the study swung open violently. Malcolm stood in the frame, his powerful figure silhouetted against the corridor light. His anger crackled in the air like static electricity. What's going on in here? He barked, taking in the chaos before him. Ethan's wild grin frozen. Jane standing ground with a fire in her eyes. Jane's throat dried. This was it. The confrontation she'd been so terrified of. Did she have what it took to stand firm? Her heart raced as her father stepped forward, storm brewing in his glare. Dad, she started, shaking in the wake of the intensity. But before she could finish, Malcolm's gaze landed on the toppled trophy behind them. Do you have any idea how much that meant to our family? He said, voice low and dangerous. With the storm of her father's fury brewing in front of her and an uncertain path cracking open behind, Jane strained against the pull of her doubt. Beneath the chaos of the moment, she felt something new settling deep inside her, a resolve. As their eyes locked, something shifted. Malcolm faltered, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. It was as if he could sense her determination, just as much as she could feel his uncertainty. I'm not going to let this fear control my life anymore, she whispered under her breath, almost for herself more than him. But the moment was taut, and she could sense the change in the air like the calm before a fierce storm. Would this confrontation destroy any chance at reconciliation, or could it lead to something she had longed for? In the heartbeat of silence that followed, filled with unspoken tension, Jane's future hung precariously in the balance. Would she finally take her stand, or retreat into the shadows of her past? For a heartbeat, the world around Jane seemed to freeze. She could feel Ethan's eyes darting back and forth between them, caught in the tremor of uncertainty. The air thickened with all the words left unspoken, all the arguments packed tightly like old boxes in the attic, each a reminder of the barriers that had built up over the years. Dad, it's not just about the trophy, it's about everything. Her voice wavered, but she pressed on. You don't see how your expectations control our lives. I'm not a soldier in your army waiting for orders. There was a flicker of something in Malcolm's eyes. Was it recognition, or just anger refocusing? Jane noticed the way his fists clenched, the tension in his jaw. Expectations? Malcolm's voice rolled off his tongue like thunder. I gave you structure, a purpose to prepare you for the real world. And this is how you repay me, by wanting to be my own person. She shot back. The words broke free. A mixture of fear and anger blended into fierce determination. She could feel the weight of every conflict spilling between them, years of unvoiced grievances crystallizing into this moment. Ethan stepped up, still uncertain but growing bolder. It's not fair to keep Jane locked in that role forever. She deserves a choice, Dad. Malcolm turned his gaze to Ethan, his expression shifting for a fleeting second before hardening again. This isn't your business, Ethan. You shouldn't be encouraging her. Jane felt a crack in Malcolm's demeanor, a tide of vulnerability she'd never seen before. I'm not asking for permission anymore, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. I want to explore what's out there beyond these walls, to chase my own dreams. Silence lingered, stretching painfully. Jane could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the room feeling smaller, more oppressive. For all his authority, was there a part of Malcolm that understood, even just a little, what she was fighting for? At that moment, a crash echoed from the other side of the mansion, pulling them all from the fragile standoff. The sound reverberated through the walls, startling. What was that? Ethan whispered, glancing toward the hallway. Maybe something fell? Jane shrugged, trying to mask her unease. But the unease pulsed stronger, and she couldn't ignore what it hinted at: the secrets this house might still hold. Secrets that felt more alive than them at that moment. Let us go check it out, Jane said suddenly, looking from her brother to her father. This could be more important than any trophy. She took a step toward the door, a spark of bravery flowing through her veins. You're not going anywhere, Malcolm insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. Jane turned back to him, eyes bright with purpose. I can't stand still, pretending everything is fine while the world outside is falling apart. I need to know the truth, not just for me but for us all. For the first time, Jane saw the flicker of regret in Malcolm's gaze. Was it the trophy that symbolized his control, or was there more? You're going to regret this, he warned, but Jane felt more empowered than afraid. Before another word could be exchanged, she moved toward the door, pulling Ethan along. As they stepped into the hallway, Jane couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead might change everything beyond just the encounter with their father. What lay in the dark corners of this place might untangle everything she longed to confront. With every step, Jane felt the weight of possibility. But the question loomed. Would she find empowerment, or another chain of expectation binding her further? They moved cautiously down the corridor, hearts racing against the backdrop of uncertainty. The pulse of the mansion thrummed around them, alive, echoing with both dread and anticipation. And as they approached the source of the commotion, a new layer of fear unfolded. Would they discover the root of a mystery that had long been buried? Or would they unearth something far more dangerous than they could have imagined? Ethan followed Jane closely, his heart pounding in time with her strides. The house felt different now, as if it carried whispers of memories left dormant for too long. Shadows danced along the walls, emphasizing the erratic flicker of the candlelight from a nearby sconce. They reached a grand doorway that led to the library, a room that held the echoes of countless conversations and hopes. Jane pushed the door open, the creaking sound mingling with their apprehension. Inside, the chaos was evident. A bookshelf had toppled over, books strewn across the floor like fallen soldiers, pages splayed open like silent screams. What the hell happened here? Ethan breathed, searching for an explanation. I don't know. Jane stepped forward, her eyes scanning the room, her curiosity overpowering fear. She moved toward the fallen shelf, the air feeling thick with a strange energy. As she reached to pick up a book, something caught her attention, a glimmer from beneath the wreckage. Jane knelt, brushing aside the litter, revealing an ornate box. It looked old, the kind of treasure that pulled at her heart, igniting something deep within her. Look at this, she murmured, lifting the box with trembling hands. The wood was cool and smooth, intricately carved with designs that felt almost familiar. What's inside? Ethan asked, peering over her shoulder. His voice was hushed, almost reverent. Jane took a deep breath, anticipation bubbling in her chest. Let us find out. She reached for the latch, its cold metallic feel both foreign and inviting. A click echoed softly as she released it, revealing a velvet lining cradling what appeared to be several envelopes, each elegantly sealed with a wax emblem. Do you think it's what we've been searching for? Ethan's voice held a mixture of hope and doubt. I don't know, but it's a start, she replied, her fingers trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. She carefully lifted one of the envelopes, breaking the wax seal. As the paper unfolded, she felt her heartbeat race faster. The content was real, tangible proof of something deeper lurking in their family's history. Ethan's voice pulled her from her thoughts. What if this leads back to Dad? To the truth about everything? She looked up at him, the fear of knowing clashing with the urge to uncover what had lingered in the shadows for so long. Was she prepared for what they might find? Did she want to know the secrets their father had kept hidden? Taking a deep breath, she replied, I think we need to. No more hiding. She began to read the first letter aloud, the ink flowing across her tongue like history being unlocked. The words danced on the page, revealing fragments that spoke of dreams and fears, of sacrifices made and choices never taken. With each sentence, their father's carefully curated image began to crack, and the truth of a man buried beneath layers of expectation came to the surface. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed from upstairs, louder than before. The sound jolted them both, a warning bell urging them to listen, to be ready. "What now?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Jane managed, the uncertainty settling back in. "But I don't think we're alone anymore." Just then, another crash echoed through the house, shaking the very foundation they stood on. Jane's heart raced, fear mingling with a fierce determination. She looked at Ethan, who mirrored her concern. They had to face whatever was waiting for them upstairs. But would the truth they discovered unite their family or tear it apart entirely? With their hearts pounding, they tightened their grip on the newfound revelations and took a step toward the staircase, raising the stakes toward an inevitable confrontation with what lay beyond. Would they have the courage to confront their father? And as they climbed the stairs, Jane couldn't shake the feeling that the answers they uncovered might change everything and perhaps even cost them dearly. The staircase creaked beneath their feet, the sound echoing in the silence that enveloped them. Each step was a leap into the unknown, a journey that could either bring understanding or plunge them deeper into confusion. Jane glanced at Ethan, his expression a mix of apprehension and resolve. They both knew they were crossing a threshold, but what lay ahead was shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. As they reached the landing, the air grew unnaturally cold. An unsettling chill wrapped around Jane, making the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. She forced herself to move toward the hallway, its walls lined with pictures that once seemed comforting but now felt like eyes watching their every move. Each portrait was a ghost from their past, a family frozen in time, oblivious to the tempest brewing beneath the surface. "Do you hear that?" Ethan's whisper cut through the silence, his face pale. Jane strained her ears, and sure enough, a muffled sound seeped through the door at the end of the hallway, a rhythmic thumping mixed with a distant, anguished cry. "Is it coming from Dad's study?" She breathed, her chest tightening. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. What could be happening? Was their father in danger? Or was it something worse, something he had kept hidden from them for too long? "We have to," Ethan started, but was interrupted by another crash from inside the room, louder this time. The force sent a shiver down her spine, urging her feet into motion. She moved toward the door, her hand trembling as it gripped the knob. "Wait!" Ethan grabbed her arm, his voice a harsh whisper. "Are you ready for this?" Jane paused, uncertainty flooding her thoughts. Ready or not, we have to know. There was no backing down now. Not after what they had discovered in the library. With a deep breath, she turned the knob and pushed the door open. The study was in chaos, papers scattered everywhere, the desk overturned, and their father's old typewriter lying on the floor like a forgotten relic. But it was the figure at the window that caught her attention. "Dad?" Jane called out, trying to keep her voice steady. The man turned slowly, revealing tear-streaked cheeks. His face was a mask of fear and grief, and Jane's heart sank. He looked older, smaller, as if the weight of his secrets had finally crushed him. "Jane, Ethan?" he stammered, his eyes darting between them, filled with an emotion that was painfully familiar: shame. "You shouldn't have come here." "What's going on?" Ethan demanded, glancing back at the chaos around them. "Why are you acting like this?" "I didn't want you to know." Their father's voice quivered, almost breaking. "I was trying to protect you from the truth." "From what?" Jane pressed, feeling desperation clawing at her. He swallowed hard. "From the choices I made and the lives I touched. There are things about our family that you won't understand." As he spoke, Jane couldn't help but feel the weight of those words. The secrets, the hidden truths, they began to spiral around her, thickening the air. Every instinct urged her to retreat, to turn back to the safety of ignorance. But beneath her fear, a flicker of bravery ignited. "We want the truth. You can't keep us in the dark anymore." A storm brewed in her father's eyes. "You might wish you hadn't," he said that before he could finish his thought, a loud bang erupted from outside, the sound of shattering glass. Jane's heart raced. What was happening out there? Were they in danger? "Stay close," Ethan whispered, stepping protectively in front of her. Everything felt fragile, as if a single word could shatter the thin veneer of safety. The intensity in the air was suffocating, and Jane realized they were on the brink of something monumental. As they prepared to confront their father's past, She could sense that the truth would force them all to face demons they weren't ready to confront. The answer they sought could either heal their family or break it beyond repair. And just as she opened her mouth to speak again, the door swung shut, plunging them into darkness. What now? And was the truth worth the risk? The darkness pressed around them, creating a bubble where fear and anticipation twisted together into an unbearable knot. Jane's breath caught in her throat as she stood frozen, her heart racing. The echo of glass shattering outside still reverberated in her mind, adding urgency to the moment. "Dad!" Ethan shouted. "Open the door." But instead of answering, their father turned back to the window, eyes darting outside as if searching for answers the world could not provide. Jane felt a surge of frustration bubble within her. "You can't just shut us out, Dad. We deserve to know what's happening." Malcolm straightened, finally facing them with a look that bore the weight of his choices. "You don't understand, Jane. I did all of this to protect you." "Protect us? Protect us from what?" Jane felt rage boiling over, fueled by a lifetime of silent suffering and suffocating expectations. "You've hidden the truth for so long, and it's tearing our family apart. Just tell us." Ethan stepped forward, his eyes fierce. "You're suffocating us. All we want is the chance to decide our lives, to make our own choices." The silence hung heavily in the air, punctuating their father's internal struggle. Jane felt hope tugging at her heart. Maybe this was it, the moment when everything could change. With shaky hands, Malcolm gestured toward the window. "It's not safe right now, you two don't know what's coming." His vulnerability shone through, the bravado crumbling like old paint beneath sunlight. "What do you mean?" Jane pressed, her voice trembling yet steady. "Is someone threatening us?" He hesitated, then took a deep breath. "There are people who want what we have. They always have. But I never wanted you to live in fear of that world. I built this life through sacrifices. Sacrifices that made us live in a gilded cage." Jane shot back, her heart pounding with indignation. "We're not your trophies. We're real people with lives of our own." For the first time, Jane saw uncertainty flash in her father's eyes, a flicker of recognition that she was more than just a product of his expectations. The fear between them seemed to momentarily dissolve under the weight of truth, and she hoped it would lead him to understand. Just then, another crash echoed outside, a reminder that danger was real, and chaos was threatening to spill into their lives. "Dad!" Ethan urged again, his voice rising in alarm. "What do we do?" I don't know." Malcolm's voice cracked, unraveling further. "There's a risk of losing everything." Jane took a decisive step forward, resolve hardening within her. "Sometimes you have to risk everything to find what's really worth saving." A flicker of comprehension crossed Malcolm's face as he absorbed her words. In that moment, the walls around his heart seemed to tremble, and Jane clawed for the chance to find common ground. "What did you lose, Dad? What cost you so much that you'd rather drown us in silence than let us know the truth?" Tears welled up in Malcolm's eyes, and for the first time he looked smaller. "I lost everything I thought was worth protecting. I lost your mother to the burdens of this life. I thought keeping you from the truth would shield you." In the revelation of a shared loss, a weight shifted among them. "Then let us face it together." Jane's voice rang out, filled with a surge of hope. "Let us stand united against whatever comes." "Yes," Ethan chimed in, desire for change radiating from him. "Let us fight for ourselves." Malcolm's gaze searched theirs, disbelief melting away slowly. "But that would mean exposing myself, exposing all of us, and maybe that's what it will take for you to finally be free," Jane pressed, her heart hammering. "To step beyond the shadows of control, to find the real legacy you want for us." The silence deepened, thick with a million unspoken thoughts hanging in the air. Would their father step out of the thick fog of illusion he had created? The loud crash from outside shattered the stillness again, sounding like an urgent alarm. The answer was clear: this moment could dissolve or ignite them into a new future. Malcolm finally nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "All right. Together." With that single word, a unifying bond broke free, enveloping them in a promise. They felt renewed strength ripple through the room, binding them against whatever storm awaited them. Together, Jane echoed, anchoring her gaze with hope. And with a sudden burst of determination, they twisted the doorknob and opened it to reveal the chaos outside, the distant sound of shouts, the commotion of uncertainty, and the true nature of the life they lead to this moment. As they stepped out into the light, their hearts flooded with anticipation, each moving toward rebuilding their family anew, fighting not only against the danger lurking but also the shadows in their hearts. The desire for liberation burned bright, a revolution beginning not just for them, but for every lingering regret and unfulfilled dream. Together they would rise and confront the world beyond that moment. And in that embrace of danger, they felt invincible, liberated by the knowledge that their story was just beginning. And as they marched ahead, with the weight of the past finally meeting the light of an unyielding future, Jane knew that they had finally broken free. Now it was time to live, to cherish the truth, and to boldly claim their lives for each other. As the day drew to a close, a radiant sunset painted the sky, mirroring the embers of hope, igniting team spirit, framing a transition into an unknown yet promising horizon. And in that moment, they became wholly united, ready to embrace whatever awaited them, as free as a kite soaring high with unbroken string. If you've been inspired by this journey, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss exclusive news stories that will captivate your heart. Hit that like button right now to feed the algorithm and keep these emotions rolling. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Let us know how you felt. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Real fans know how important it is to support what moves us. Let us spread this powerful message together.